Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another session with the Historia Project's virtual summer camp. We're so glad if you're watching this online or on our website that you're able to join us today for our next topic. Today's topic is actually very exciting. We're actually go outer space beyond the Earth and learn about history of science related to the solar system. So I hope you enjoy, and yeah, um, Belen, do you want to take us away?
Sure. So, our topic today is the solar system. So, what is the solar system? Well, it's the collection of our eight planets and their moons in orbit around the sun, including smaller bodies such as asteroids, meteoroids, and comets. So, the list of planets from closest to furthest to the sun is Mercury, Venus, Earth, where we live, of course, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and finally, and the furthest is Neptune.
So let's begin with the sun. The sun, you might have always known as this object up in our sky that's really glowing bright, especially during the day. But what you might not have known is that the sun is actually a star. So the sun is about 4.5 billion years old, which is really old. And I don't know about you guys, but 4.5 billion years ago seems like a long, long time ago. And it's actually a glowing ball of hydrogen and helium that's located in the center of our solar system. The sun, as I mentioned, is basically a star, and it's crazy because it's about 93 million miles away from Earth, and it's main source of all our planet's energy. The sun is also one of the largest objects in our solar system, and it can fit 1.3 million Earths inside of it. Wow. The gravity of the sun holds the entire solar system together, and it allows everything like the big planets to the smallest bits of debris in orbit around it. So that's why we have this collection of planets and all these celestial materials within the solar system that's able to stay inside because of the sun's gravity. And the hottest part of the sun is actually its core. In fact, the temperatures can rise up to over 27 million degrees in Fahrenheit, which is extremely hot. Now, beyond the sun, the main bodies of the solar system are made up of different planets. Now, you might have known planets like Mercury or Jupiter or Uranus, but what you might not know before is that they're actually grouped into different categories. So let's kind of go over the three different categories very briefly. We have terrestrial planets, which are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Then we have Jupiter and Saturn, which are considered gas giants. And finally, we have ice giants, which are Neptune and Uranus. So let's go over what terrestrial planets are. And remember, those are Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Now, the term terrestrial refers to something that's rocky, hard surface of these planets. And these planets, these four main planets, are the most innermost of our solar system. So if you look at this map here, you can see that Venus, Mars, Mercury, and Earth are actually the ones that are closest to the sun.
All right, so the first planet we're going to cover is the first planet from the sun, Mercury. So it is almost 28 million miles up to 35 million miles, depending on where you are, since it is a big planet, away from the sun, which is very, very far. It has an average surface temperature of 243 degrees Fahrenheit, which is way hotter than it ever gets here on Earth. And because of its gravity, you weigh about 38% of your Earth weight on this planet. So, for example, if you were to weigh 100 pounds here, you would only weigh 38 because of the gravity. So, some fun facts about Mercury is actually the smallest of all eight planets. It kind of lacks an atmosphere. And by what we mean by that is that instead of an atmosphere, Mercury has a very thin exosphere made up of atoms blasted off the surface by solar winds and striking meteoroids due to its proximity to the sun. So it's always the target of solar radiation and debris hitting it due to its proximity. And in case you didn't know, an exosphere is the outermost layer of the atmosphere. So it just has a very thin exosphere instead of a full layered atmosphere like the other planets.
Now, let's talk about Venus. Venus is also another terrestrial planet. Now, you may have heard of Venus from one of the Greek and Roman gods and goddesses, and that's actually where they got the name from. And Venus is the second planet from the sun. It's about 782,596 million to about 68 million miles away from the sun. Now, the average surface temperature of Venus is about 867 degrees Fahrenheit, which obviously is a lot less than the temperature of the sun. And what's interesting is that you weigh about 91% of your Earth weight on this planet. So if we do a little quick math, if we're 100 pounds on Earth, that means on Venus, we'd only weigh 91 pounds due to the gravity on the planet. Now, it's also nicknamed as Earth's twin because of their similar composition, density, and mass, meaning what makes up Venus and any of like how much it weighs and different components that make Venus Venus is very similar to Earth. And some scientists even believe that Venus once looked like a lot like Earth, but because of such irreversible climate change that occurred, it's now this red and orange and yellow globe that we know today. Now, what you might not know if about Venus is that a day on Venus is actually longer than a year on Earth, which is crazy. And intense heat with an atmosphere of 90 times thicker than Earth's is actually made out of carbon dioxide.
All right, now let's go over Earth, the third planet from the sun where we all live. So Earth is about 1.4 million miles to 94 million miles away from the sun, depending on where it is in orbit. And the average surface temperature is 59 degrees Fahrenheit or 15 degrees Celsius. So some fun facts about Earth are that it's the only planet that is known to harbor life because of its unique combination of air, water, and land. And so scientists are kind of using Earth as an example to search for other planets, which might also be hospitable for life. The atmosphere also provides breathable air for organisms and gives a barrier against solar radiation and space debris. So like the ozone layer protects against radiation from the sun, and as much as 22 million pounds of meteors burn against the atmosphere every single day.
So Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. So again, depending on where it is in orbit, it is approximately 128 million to 154 million miles away from the sun. It has an average surface temperature of negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit, so very, very cold. And you weigh 38% of your Earth weight on this planet. So for example, if you were to weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you would weigh 100 due to the gravity on this planet. So you might know Mars as the red planet, and this is because Mars is covered in soil, rock, and dust made from the iron oxide, which gives the surface its rusty red color. Mars is also known as Mars is also named after the Roman god of war, which is interesting because its two moons named Deimos and Phobos are also named after the two horses that pull the Roman god of war, Mars's chariot. And these moons are hypothesized to be asteroids that were captured by Mars's gravity a long time ago. So Mars is also known for its claims that it harbors extraterrestrial life. And this is because astronomers believe water flowed on Mars long ago in ancient seas and riverbeds. And this is because water is the basis of all life, and all life needs water to survive. However, the air now is mostly carbon dioxide and it is way too wispy to support water or hold much heat, which is why life does not exist on Mars.
Now we'll cover gas giants. So these are Jupiter and Saturn. They're large planets that are mainly composed of helium or hydrogen. And unlike terrestrial planets, these do not have hard surfaces. Instead, there's a solid core, and then there's a lot of swirling gases, again, mainly helium and hydrogen swirling around that core. So you can see in this diagram, Jupiter and Saturn are the fifth and sixth planets farthest away from the sun.
So let's talk about Jupiter, one of the gas giants that we just mentioned. Jupiter is about 460 million miles to 500 million miles away from the sun. And it's kind of cold, as we expected, because it's further away from the sun with an average temperature up to about negative 243 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. And actually, we weigh 253% of our Earth's weight on this planet, meaning, again, if we did quick maths, then if we weighed 100 pounds on Earth, then we would weigh 253 on Jupiter due to its gravity. Fun fact, it's actually the largest planet in our solar system. It's known as a gas giant because it's mostly a hydrogen-filled ball, as well as helium, and it's large enough to hold more than 1,300 Earths. Interestingly enough, there's actually no solid surface on the planet, and it has about nearly 70 moons, and some of its moons are even larger than Mercury and has its own magnetic field.
Now for Saturn. Saturn is the sixth planet from the sun. It can be anywhere from 838 million to 934 million miles away from the sun. The average surface temperature is negative 288 degrees Fahrenheit, and you weigh 107% of your Earth weight on the planet. So if you weighed 100 pounds on Earth, you would weigh 107 pounds on Saturn due to the increased mass and stronger gravity. So Saturn is mainly known for its rings that are more than 155,000 miles long or wide, and they rotate at different rates. And so these rings are kind of like a glittering shower of ice and rock, and astronomers believe that these rings formed from bits of asteroids and comets, which we will cover later, that shattered before they reached Saturn. And so Saturn, again, is a gas giant, which is a ball of mostly hydrogen and helium, and it's large enough to hold more than 750 Earths.
Okay, so the last type of planets that we're going to cover are ice giants. Ice giants are these large planets that are composed mainly of the elements that are heavier than hydrogen and helium, such as oxygen, carbon, nitrogen, and sulfur. The term ice refers to their extremely low temperatures and higher abundance of atmospheric water and other ice-forming molecules. These planets are Uranus and Neptune. Okay, so as you can see on the map, these ice giants are the furthest away from the sun. Like, these are the last planets. Okay, so Uranus is the seventh planet from the sun. It's about 1 million to 1,008,100 miles from the sun, which is really far. The average surface temperatures are about negative 357 degrees Fahrenheit, and you weigh 91% of your Earth weight on this planet. So if you would weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you would weigh 91 due to Uranus's gravity. Uranus is tilted, so possibly as a result of a collision with an Earth-sized object a really long time ago. It constantly spins like a top toppling over ever since, causing extreme seasons and decades devoid of the sun's light. Uranus's crushing atmosphere can compress methane into precious rocks such as diamonds as well, which is really cool. So the last planet, which is the eighth planet from the sun, is Neptune. It's about 2 million miles away from the sun, and the average surface temperature is about negative 353 Fahrenheit. On this planet, you weigh about 114% of your Earth weight. So if you would weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you'd weigh 114 pounds due to Neptune's gravity on Neptune. So this is the only planet that cannot be seen from the Earth with the naked eye because it is the furthest away from the sun. Even without being able to see it, early astronomers discovered and noticed that Neptune traveled in a way that suggested a gravitational pull of an eighth planet. This is another ice giant, and it's like a large ball of gas surrounding an Earth-sized core of hot liquids. So what about Pluto? Pluto used to be considered a planet until 2006, when astronomers concluded that it does not meet the third criteria of a planet. So it has not yet cleared the neighborhood of its orbit in space.
And so planets aren't the only things in space. There are also comets, asteroids, and meteoroids. So comets orbit the sun, and they are made of ice and dust. And so as a comet's orbit takes it towards the sun, the ice and dust eventually begins to vaporize, and they become the tail, which sometimes if you've been looking up at the night sky, you might see. And so one famous comet is Halley's Comet. It's one that generally appears every 75 to about 80 years. There are also asteroids, which are these small rocky objects that orbit the sun, and they're leftover particles from the formation of our solar system. but they were never incorporated into planets. And mostly they're made of iron or rock. Finally, there are meteoroids, which are small fragments caused by collisions between asteroids and other bodies. And so when meteoroids enter the Earth's atmosphere, they burn up and be called things called meteors. And when they crash into Earth, those leftover fragments are called meteorites.
Thank you for watching. We hope that you learned something today about the solar system, different planets, and also what make up our universe. And just to put things in scale, the solar system, and ours more specifically, the Milky Way galaxy, is just one very tiny component of how much the entire solar outer space contains. So we hope that if you were interested in solar systems or about space, you learned something new. Or if you weren't interested, then you want to learn more about the solar system and different planets. So thank you, and we hope you enjoy. Bye.